Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. As promised, this one is going to be kind of a cleanup episode just to take care of a couple of loose ends, fix a couple of malfunctions here on the app before we, or the intention was, before we move on to the customer experience. A lot of people reached out to me and said, you'd really love to see the implementation of images being added. We just have a placeholder image here, and we have a button here where we can, in theory, click on that and add an image, and we were going to leave that for later, but people really want to see how that works with the upload to Firebase storage and getting the image URL and storing that and all that, so we can accommodate that. So we'll do our cleanup this time. The next episode we'll do an image add, and then we'll move on to the customer experience. Now, when we left this, there were a few hinky, kind of annoying things going on, a couple areas that were lacking some things. One of the issues is that we had lost this collapsing toolbar effect, and we have it still on orders and profile, but on products we'd lost it, and we'd lost it on iOS, and we'd also lost it on Android. So both platforms had lost this ability to collapse the header bar and give us that extra space when needed. And I've done this a lot of times in apps, and it's always worked, and it took me a little while to figure out what the difference was. And the problem is on our widgets products page. We have the widget products page inside of this whole area, which is scrollable, and that cannot be a scaffold. It has to go right into the body, a column, or some kind of layout widget. Can't be a scaffold. So I've got to clean this part out up here in the product section, and really we just need the page body part. So we don't even need this platform.isIOS because we're not going to be serving up a Cupertino scaffold. We're not going to be serving up a material scaffold, and all of this stuff is pretty much cross-platform down here. And so we really just need the page body function. So I'm going to take the first page body. I'm going to start with the cursor there, and I'm just going to wipe out everything up to here with the if platform is iOS. And then I'm going to grab the comma at the end of the page body and just come down inside the last curly brace. We want to keep one curly brace there. We want a semicolon there, and we need to return something, so we will just return this page body. And if we save that, we will see that is all that is necessary to restore our collapsing app bar. But we have lost this little plus down here, and if you are on the Android version of this app, then we have lost the Fab button down here, and we have no way to get to the Add page. So let's replace the Add button, and let's do this. Let's put a rectangle that goes all the way across here. We'll build a container that is a Add button down here at the bottom. And let's do that by wrapping our list view in a column. And if you save that, it will break it. And we want to wrap our list view in a widget, and we want to use an expanded widget here. So we're taking up all the available free space, and that will break it even more. And then we come down here after the expanded, and this is where we will start adding our button. In fact, I think actually we're just hitting a state issue here. Let's restart it. Go to vendor page. Oop. That's where we need to be. So it's fine. It just had an issue with the state. But down here is where we can add our container to be our button. So let's start with a container, and then we'll build that, and then we'll just wrap it in a gesture detector, which will make it clickable and give us the ability to add a function. So we'll do a container. We'll do a height of 50 pixels. We'll do a width, and we could do a media query for the width, or we could just do double dot infinity, which will stretch it as far as the screen extends. We need a color so we can actually see it, and let's do our straw. So if we haven't brought in app colors yet, we'll do that, and let's do the straw color. I'm just going to save that so we can see how that's shaping up. It looks pretty good. And let's give it a child, and we could put some text here, but I think a plus sign is going to be just fine. We can do an icon, and we can select from icons.add. Let's give that a color of white. And let's save that. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's say size 30.0. Do 35. Yeah, that looks better. All right, so that takes care of the container. That is a material icon, so let's make this more platform specific by checking for our platform here. So do if platform. Well, we won't do the if, we'll just do platform.isIOS. And if it is iOS, we don't want this because this is material. So let's just copy this. Take out the comma there, and we'll replace just the icons with the Cupertino icons. And I got those reversed. I want that there, and Cupertino icons.add. There we go. Looks more Cupertino-like, and we click on that. It does nothing because we haven't added the gesture detector yet. So let's wrap that container with a widget, and let's give ourselves a gesture detector. I'm just going to format that a little bit. All right, so then we want to go below our container, and we can do an onTap method. And let's just do an anonymous function that goes to navigator of context, and we will push named. And our named route is /edit product. And no product ID. That signifies an add. And so now if we click it, we go to add a product. So we are all set there. All right, the next thing on our list is in iOS and not in Material. Material works fine on this, but the Android version. The iOS, when you go into an existing product, was an interesting blank there. Okay, we'll put that on our list and revisit that. When you click on this, so we've got a dozen corn here. We click on this to change it, and it doesn't go to a dozen. It goes to single, and so we want to fix that. So let's go to our widgets drop-down button, because that's where we define this. And like I said, our material is working just fine because we pass the value to it, and it knows what to do from there. But the Cupertino picker works a little bit differently. And the way we want to set it is we want to give it an initial item. And the way that can be done is through a scroll controller. And the scroll controller takes a fixed extent scroll controller. And that has a property of initial item. And that is going to take an integer, which is the index of the item here. So we need to know the item that has been selected or is coming from our existing product. And so we need to know what the value is. So we will create a string here for a value parameter in our select iOS function. And we actually already have that up here. So we're passing in the value to material when we have it, and we are using that to populate the value property of the drop-down button, and that works fine. But we're not doing anything with it with iOS. So here in our Show Cupertino modal pop-up where we return our function, let's just go ahead and pass that value into the function. And then once we have that, we can come down and we can search for the item by doing items, and we could do a where and try to figure out the index, but there is pretty easy way here where we go with index where. So we find the item and it doesn't return us the item, it will return us the index, which is of more use to us in this case where we're actually looking for that value to pass to the scroll controller. So I'm going to call, let's stretch this a little bit more. Whoa, that's less. There we go. I'm going to call the element item, and then we'll just say item equal to value. And if there's no value there, it's actually going to return -1, which works just fine. That just bounces us to our first pick in the scroll controller. So it can handle that. So we don't really have to worry about taking care of a scenario where that's not found. All right, that should be enough there. So let's shrink this back up. And let's restart the state. So we go to vendor page. Let's go to one that isn't single. So beets are being sold by the pound. Click on pounds and it populates pounds. Just come out here and let's do ground beef. And we should be getting pounds there as well. And we are. Let's just make sure a single works still. So there's beets by the single. We have two different beets. And that all seems to work. So we are good with that part. Now let's figure out why this is going black on us before it actually loads the product. So that is our edit product page. So that's in screens, edit product. And let's look around our circular progress indicator. Let's go. We can take our to-do out because we did that. Let's go all the way up to the top here and let's look at this. And okay, so if we come in, we build, we have a center widget and we have a Cupertino activity indicator and circular progress indicator, and we have no scaffold in that scenario until we actually return the values. So that's no good. So let's just wrap the center widget with a widget, and let's just do a scaffold, and a scaffold is fine. Let's do body there. Even for Cupertino, you can use a scaffold, you can mix them in there. They're going to look different, but in this case, we're just using the body and we're centering the widget, so it really doesn't matter. We don't need to differentiate. So if we do that now and we come out, we do corn, of course now we're not getting the, okay, you can sort of see it if you move fast. I think my internet is so quick that it doesn't always reveal some of these problems. Yep, I can see that. I can see the spinner very briefly, and I can see that it is on a white background. So I think we fixed that issue just fine. So the last thing I wanted to touch on here is when you save this product. So I might change the ground beef to 1250. And I can save the product, and I can come out and I can see it's 1250. And yeah, I mean, I get many indications that this worked fine. But if you have a lot of products here and you happen to land up here at the top, I don't know that you'll know that your newest one was added. So I think we need some kind of feedback here. And I'm going to go with a solution called Flutter Toast. And it's not particularly iOS or material based. It kind of like doesn't quite fit both platforms, but it'll fly in this situation. And if it really bothers us, we can circle back and do more of a platform specific notification for Android and iOS. So to do that, I'm going to actually stop the emulator. I haven't tested this package, whether it works without stopping the emulator or not. So I'm just going to stop it. It is called Flutter Toast, and right now it's on version 4.01. It might be something different by the time you get to this, which is fine. I'm going to paste that in here, and in fact, I'm going to paste over the Cupertino toolbar because we are not using that anymore. That was the piece that was down here before. And when I do that, I get an error in widgets, products, and that is because we have a reference to that Cupertino toolbar. So we need to get rid of that. And while I'm at it, I might as well take this unused reference out as well. All right, so I'm going to go to the documentation and I'm going to go to README. And this is pretty straightforward. So this is a basic show toast, and these are the variables that are available. It does support the web, so there's some different variables here for the web, which we're not particularly worried about right now. So I'm just going to copy Flutter Toast. And I'm going to go to Edit Products. And what we've got going here, how we have the pop working, is we have this variable called product saved, this stream that we have in our block, and we listen to it. And when it meets these variables or these values here, we pop the navigator. And so that is also the conditions that we would want to display a success message on as well. So I'm going to paste that piece of code I just got from the documentation there, and then I'm going to move in the navigator pop. So we'll need to import Flutter Toast like that. I will format it a little bit. And so let's address the message. Let's just say product saved. We've got a toast length, which is short. That is for Android, and then we have time in seconds for iOS and the web. So I'm going to say 2 seconds. We can select where this appears, and I am fine with it being centered. And we can pick a background color. So I'm gonna work in our color scheme. So let's do app colors. Let's do the light blue this time. And there's font size, there's text color. I'm fine with white text. I think font size 16 is fine. Let's give it a run and let's see. So this is a stateful widget, so I am going to do a restart. Well, in fact, I'm actually going to have to start it again because I stopped it for the package. So I'm going to start this. And I'm going to hit pause so you don't have to watch that fire up. All right, so let's give that a go here. Let's go to grass-fed beef and let's change that back to $12. And let's save the product, and we get product saved like that. Let's go to corn. We'll change corn to 5.25 dozen. We'll click save. And there we go. It's coming out twice here. Let's check on that. I see it flash, and then I see it flash again. I also see we're getting a bit of an error down here around the navigator state, and it says init state. I'm guessing that is because the context is missing when this runs. And let's see, you can do the whole future delayed stuff, but I'm finding that the existence of a context in init state and dispose methods is a little shaky, and the best medicine seems to be to check for context not equal to null. And that way this navigator can't even be set up until the context is resolved. So let's do a restart on that. Let's run that again. So I got my vendor page, I got my corn. We're going to move it up to $5.50 a dozen. We're going to save the product, and there's our product saved. And it only happens once, and we get no error. So that resolved all our issues. So that's what I had on my list, plus actually that issue we caught with the scaffold. But I did just notice as we were in one of these that it still says edit product up here. So that was nice and slow. So we got to see we had fixed the scaffold with the black background issue. This still says add product, and it should say edit product if we're editing a product. So let's fix that. And so let's go down to our page body. And let's do this. Let's just create a variable that we pass in here. And so we'll do a var, and let's do page label. And let's set that equal to a string, but we'll determine the string by checking our existing product is not equal to null. And if it's not equal to null, we will return edit product. And if it is equal to null, we will return add product. And then we can just sub in this hard-coded string with page label. All right, so let's get that. We can see that says edit. So we got that part. If we go to add, we got add product. So there we go. Just tying up a bunch of loose ends here before we move on. So the next episode we'll come back and we will add the ability to upload a custom picture for each one of these products. And then after that, we'll move on to the customer experience. There's certainly more to be done here in the vendor area, but I think it's time to move on to the customer experience now that we have products in the database. So that will be next time. As always, thanks for continuing to watch. Much appreciated. Stay well, and we'll see you next time.